Times are absolutely crazy now. There's so much division. Even the energy in the air feels different. My escape in these difficult, crazy times is to busy my mind with something that I love and enjoy. I try to concentrate on the things that I can actually control in my life. On this particular day, I was getting ready to prepare for Shabbat, but before I even got started, I wanted something that would comfort my heart and soul. So I made a warm, comforting hot chocolate that did the trick. It's so easy to get lost in the madness that this world is unfortunately becoming, but this is my little reminder to you to take a quick moment to comfort your mind and soul in any way that will help you. Of course, I'll leave the delicious recipe of this hot chocolate in the description box below. It was super easy to make and it really did the trick. As you can probably tell by the title of this video, I plan to share with you some comfort food recipes that I made this past Shabbat. For me, it's a warm and decadent cup of hot chocolate while I begin my prep, a delicious bowl of matzo ball soup, and of course some scrumptious dessert to fill your heart with sweetness like warm gooey apple pie and cookies. And of course, let's not forget how a deliciously fresh home-baked sourdough bread can bring some comfort to the soul. So let's roll up our sleeves and let's get prepping. The first thing that I started for Shabbat was this matzo ball soup, and these are all of the ingredients. I'll be using a whole bunch of celery. I'll also be using 1.5 pounds of these carrots, which are on the thin side. So since each bag is 1 pound, I'll be using 1.5 of these bags. I also have 5 cloves of garlic, 3 onions, and about 7 chicken drumsticks. I'm also going to be using a matzo ball mix. Any will really do. Now that all of the ingredients are out, let's start the prep. I first start off by peeling the garlic and the onions. Now that everything is peeled and washed, I'm starting on the chopping. For the garlic, I just crushed them lightly and sliced them thinly. The onions get sliced in half and chopped into small cubes. I then thinly slice the carrots into circles, keeping in mind to not cut them too thinly so that they don't turn into mush while cooking in the soup. Lastly, the celery gets sliced into thin slices so they could easily dissolve while cooking in the soup. I place a 5-quart soup pot on the stove and add in about 3 tablespoons of oil. I'm using avocado oil here. Once that's heated up, I'm going to be adding in the onions and saute that for 2 to 3 minutes. Celery goes in next, and at this point I season the soup with about 2 teaspoons of salt, but of course you can season it to your liking and to your preference. You could add more, you could add less. I give everything a mix to incorporate the salt throughout, and then add in the sliced garlic and 1 tablespoon of the chicken consomme seasoning, as well as 3 bay leaves. I then place in about 2 teaspoons of black pepper, followed by the sliced carrots. I mix everything thoroughly to incorporate everything. Once the veggies have cooked for about 5 to 7 minutes, I'm going to be adding in the chicken drumsticks. I usually do 1 per person, and fill the soup pot with water. Once the soup comes to a boil, I cover it with the lid and allow it to cook for 1 hour. In the meantime, I'll be making the matzo balls. I'm simply following the instructions on the packaging. I can definitely take the extra time and make them from scratch, but truthfully, this is not the time. Give yourself some grace and be kind to yourself. So I'm definitely taking the easy route and just following the ingredients and the instructions on the box. I put all of the ingredients together in my bowl, just as it says, 1/4 cup of oil and 2 eggs. I mix it with the mix and allow it to just sit for about 15 to 30 minutes so it can thicken up. Now that 1 hour has passed, I roll the matzo balls into tiny balls and drop them into the soup. I allow the soup to cook for an additional hour after that on low, and it's just going to get the matzo balls to be super soft and fluffy. I garnish the soup with some herbs. You can actually omit this step completely if you are not a fan. I'm choosing to add in some dill over the top and enjoy. Now onto the oatmeal Craisins cookies. I have found this recipe on Pinterest, but of course I did have to tweak it because I needed it to be dairy free. The link is in the description box for you. So I swapped out the butter for oil, and all I would do differently is just add in a little bit less flour than what is called for in the recipe for the ultimate chewy oatmeal Craisins cookies. Into a bowl or a stand mixer, I'm going to be adding in 3/4 cup of oil, 1 cup of brown sugar, and 1/4 cup of regular white sugar. I'm going to be mixing all of that with a wooden spoon until everything is mixed thoroughly. In the bowl with the sugar, I did have 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt as well. I then added in the 2 eggs, and the recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of molasses, which I didn't have, so I used date syrup, and that worked perfectly. I then add in a little bit of vanilla extract, about 1 tablespoon, and mix everything to combine. 1 2/3 cup of all-purpose flour goes in next, but like I said in the beginning, I would totally decrease the amount of flour that I added next time so that the cookies can be even more chewier. They did come out chewy, but for my personal preference, I would prefer them to be even more chewier. And because I'm substituting oil for butter, I think that would make a huge difference next time. Now that all of flour is combined into the mixture, I'm adding in 3 cups of rolled oats and mixing that really well. Lastly, I'm going to be adding in 1.5 cups of craisins and mixing that really well. And I needed to go pick up my kids, so it was the perfect time to actually pop this into the refrigerator for 30 minutes for them to rest. And while I'm waiting for those 30 minutes to be up, I wanted to get started on my apple pie dough. To make the dough, I combined 1/2 cup of avocado oil and 1/2 cup of almond milk. And on the side there, I have 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour and 2 tablespoons of sugar. And all I'm going to be doing is combining the wet and dry ingredients initially with a fork and then mixing it until everything is incorporated. And as you'll see, the kids are home, so of course they're going to be in the kitchen with me because that's mom life. The kids are always around wherever mom is, and they enjoy helping and getting their hands dirty in the kitchen, so that's what we'll be doing. Of course, messes will happen and spills and accidents like this one, but it's okay. That's why we wipe our counters before we start, and it's good lessons for them that everyone makes little accidents and spills, and it's okay. I love how quick and easy this crust comes together. It's oil based, there's no butter, there's no margarine or anything of the sort, and it's, as you can see, it comes together super quickly. All I'm going to be doing now is placing it on the counter, giving it a little mush, and dividing it into 2 separate parts. I flatten each piece into a disc and wrap it with some wax paper or parchment paper and set it aside so that I can work with them when I am ready. This dough does not have to be chilled or rested. It can be used right away, but like me, I was running in and out of the house picking up different kids from different buses, so I needed to cover both of these so I can go and get my other kids. Showing you real life here. I'm finally back from doing all of the pickups, and the dough that I made with my oatmeal craisin cookies is ready now to be sorted out, placed onto baking trays, and baked. These make about roughly 36 cookies, as you'll see, and it's just perfect. We were actually invited for this particular Shabbat, so I was very in the mood to bring some delicious, yummy, comforting desserts, and I think all of the guests really did enjoy them. They were super delicious, and they really did the trick in comforting and bringing everyone together. Right before baking, I did flatten the tops of the cookies just a bit. Place them to bake in a 350-degree preheated oven for about 10 to 12 minutes. And as you can see, halfway through the cooking process, I did rotate the sheet pans. Now onto the actual apple pie filling. I have about 5 Granny Smith apples here that I'm peeling here with my daughter. After they're all peeled, you need to core them, so I'm coring them here. You're going to need about 7 cups of the apples. So for me, it was perfect. 5 of those large Granny Smiths were the perfect measurement or the perfect quantity to fill my pie pan. Now that all of the apples have been peeled and cored, I'm going to be thinly slicing all of them quite thin, placing them back into the bowl. And to keep them from browning, or actually it's the flavoring of it, I add in cinnamon to the top. But I'm just excited to do it because I'm always worried that the apples will brown, and cinnamon of course is brown. So I don't know, it's just a thing. I'm like, okay, good, I could put some cinnamon on so the apples don't turn brown, but you'll see they're all brown afterwards anyways. I add in about 2 teaspoons of the cinnamon and mix everything thoroughly. Now to make the apple pie slurry, I have 8 tablespoons of Earth's Balance. I'm going to be adding in 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour and mixing the two together to incorporate them. To the mixture, I add in 1 cup of sugar and 1/4 cup of water and mix everything thoroughly until everything comes to a boil and simmers very nicely, just like this. Once the syrup thickens, you can turn off the flame and let it cool. To roll out the pie dough, I take either parchment paper or wax paper, sprinkle on some flour over the top of it, and place the dough into the center. Cover it with some more flour and another piece of wax paper or parchment paper and roll it out. To make sure that the dough is uniform throughout, I just glide my fingers all throughout the dough and just make sure that it is perfect. I place the pie pan over the dough just to make sure that it's the perfect size, and it is. Once that is all done, I flip the dough over into the pie pan and smush the dough inside of it so it can fit perfectly. I then add in the slurry that we made for the apple pie into the apples, mix everything really well, and place it into the pie pan. Now we're moving on to the lattice that we're going to be making over the top of the apple pie. I think most people find this to be the most stressful. You could either roll out this dough and cut cute shapes of fall leaves or snowflakes or anything of the sort to match any sort of theme, or you could just simply roll out your dough and cut them into strips like I will be doing and making an intricate lattice. It doesn't always work out perfectly. I think I missed a few like intertwining bits, but truthfully it's all okay. No one will know the difference and it'll still taste amazingly delicious. The extra dough that I have left over, I place it around the rim of the pie and fold it in to make a nice crust over the sides. I use a fork to crimp the edges. It's just the quickest and easiest way to make a cute shape around the sides. This was a very busy Thursday, as you can tell. After I was done making the apple pie, I placed it in the fridge because I had to go to a birthday party for my grandmother. Wish her a happy birthday in the comments. Now I'm back. It's late at night, but I really wanted to get this baked. My husband was going to stay up anyways, so I'm going to be egg washing it here. I have one egg that I'm going to be beating, and I'm going to be putting all of the egg wash over the top of the apple pie and getting that all nice and glossy and shiny. And to top of that all, I'm going to be taking in about 1 tablespoon of regular sugar and sprinkling that over the top as well. This is going to be baked in a preheated oven set at 425 degrees for 15 minutes, and then I'm going to be lowering the oven to 350 degrees for an additional 45 minutes. My husband did an excellent job taking a video of how the apple pie turned out. It's perfectly gooey and bubbly and absolutely delicious. Another all-time comforting thing for me is homemade warm crusty bread that just comes out of the oven. So of course I'm going to be sharing this with you. I do have separate videos on the actual recipe and the technique. For today, I'm just going to be sharing with you how I actually score the dough and bake it. Just this simple act of being busy creating this art on the bread and scoring it and giving all of my attention, that is going to be basically nurturing my family for Shabbat, and our hosts that we're invited to just really soothes my soul and gives me so much comfort. I'm sure there's things that you enjoy doing for your family or just for yourself that just gets your mind off of the craziness that is going on in today's world. Although you don't hear them in the background, I have my kids all around me. My youngest son was saying, "Mommy, make one with flowers this time." So I did my best to make a flower-shaped sourdough bread, and it turned out so beautifully. While these gorgeous sourdoughs are going to be baked, I'm going to be assembling all of the desserts that we're going to be bringing to our hosts. Look how gorgeous the breads turned out. They're so intricately designed and beautiful. That's the one with the flowers. Hillel had a very great idea and turned out so beautifully. I'm going to be cooling it on the rack now, and then later on I have bread bags that I got that I'm going to be placing them into so that I can easily transport them to our host. It's honestly been very hard to concentrate on anything else these past few weeks besides the intense rise in anti-Semitism and hate and discourse in this world that we are living through in these times. And I really needed to get my mind off of all of this insanity. So I'm glad that I took these few days and made some really hearty, comforting, cozy recipes for Shabbat that I'll be sharing with family and friends. And I hope that this provided some comfort for you as well. I hope that you will enjoy all of your days and weekends and Shabbats if you keep them. Happy prepping and Shabbat Shalom from my family to yours.